welcome to another new episode of Nick America. I'm Nick Youssef. Obviously, we're not at the point where there's a guest host yet, but one day. So, I'm in New York. Got here a couple days ago. It's hot. It's nice out though, man. I was here in April, and it was, rainy, kind of cold, and it's just beautiful right now. It's just like reinvigorating. It's just revitalizing just everything, man. It feels good to just be out of Los Angeles and in a city just full of like people and activities and, a bunch of good shows to do. I'm really looking forward to having like a great, week and a half here. So I'm recording this from New York. So if you're out here, I'll be doing shows mostly at the Stand on 3rd Avenue and like 19th, and be at New York Comedy Club too, and Stand Up New York, and a couple other shows, NickYoussef.com for more details there. And San Francisco, I'm headlining the Punchline July 6th through 8th, so if you're an SF, come to one of those shows, man. They'll be fun ones. And then Tempe Improv, July 22nd through 24th. Let's keep this short because I actually have to go do a spot at the Stand in a little bit. So, this episode is with my good friend Steve Byrne. He is just such a good guy, such a funny comic. I was really happy to sit down with him. He's a busy guy too, so, thank you, Steve, again, for taking the time to hang out. I went to his place. We sat down and just talked about, where he's from. He's half Korean, half Irish. East Coaster, grew up in Jersey, moved to Pittsburgh. We talked about how his parents met. During the Korean War, his mom worked at one of the bases, and he just spent like a year or two courting her, and then they fell in love and had Steve in America, and then, and it goes from there. So that's, he tells that story and then talks about childhood, the hardships, the good times, the bad times, all that stuff. Finding sports was a really good way for him to channel a lot of his frustrations and make friends, and, him realizing he was like the funny guy. He's got a good handle on things, man. Steve is, he's got a good outlook on stuff, and if you've ever seen him live, he's such a great comic and such a good dude. He's always one of those guys that I say that about. Like, I always make sure to, a lot of comics are funny and stuff, but you always want to be like, and he's a really good guy, because not a lot of those. You find some funny dudes, but then when they also are like really cool, down to earth, like loyal, honest, like rad people. He'd be one of those guys. So glad to call him a friend. Glad to be able to work with him on the road. Glad he was able to do this podcast. We get into a bunch of stuff, so I'm just gonna stop here and let you guys explore the episode and let me know what you think. NickAmericaPod@gmail or contact at NickYoussef.com if you've already been using that one. That's still there. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Nick Youssef, and follow Steve Byrne on social media as well, Steve Byrne Live, and watch his new special. His new Showtime special just came out probably 6 or 8 weeks ago by now. And it's a good one, like all his others, which one or two of those are available on Netflix. Google around, find his comedy, support his comedy, let him know what you think of this episode. And you know what? That's it, man. I'm gonna go walk the streets of New York, go do a spot at the Stand, maybe get a slice of pizza, and then get up early, do it all over again. See you later. Okay. Thanks for having me in your home.
You're welcome, Nicholas. You're a wonderful a guest.
I'm a wonderful guest.
I feel comfortable bringing you here.
Yeah, I've been here twice in 2 days. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Twice in 12 hours, maybe even?
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Yeah. It was a I could have been a bad guest, and you would have been like, "Let's not record this at my house. Let's meet at a third, like a park."
I'm surprised you're here this time because there's no food.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
That's true. We'll just order in.
Yeah.
Something will appear.
You're getting comfortable.
Yeah. I'm going to live here, actually. In this.
You grew up in this area, though.
I grew up 15 minutes west of here.
Yeah,
in La Crescenta.
We're in Pasadena.
We're in Pasadena.
You live quite close to this area.
Yeah. Well, when I came by yesterday, I was visiting my parents.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. So I was like, that's going to work out great anyway, because I can just hang out there a little longer, then drive straight over here.
Yeah. You tell your parents you have a new place that you're living now.
Yeah. I'm going to go. I can't visit you for as long as I have another house, and they have better Korean barbecue.
Yeah.
You guys have bullshit Lebanese food, unless you learn this recipe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I spent my childhood. They live in the same house that I grew up in.
That's crazy.
Isn't that
That's
weird?
so awesome for you.
Yeah.
So you never had that like home doesn't feel like a time capsule to you then, or does it?
Not for a little while it did, because my bedroom stayed the same. So when I moved out and came, I would go, oh yeah, this bed is still here. This box full of whatever. But that stuff slowly starts getting put into like storage, and then like they now turn that bedroom into like, sort of a guest room if like a relative is going to visit or something. I mean, it's a small bedroom. It's not like a big deal, but
yeah, it's just a guest bedroom with The Cure posters.
Right. Yeah.
New
my
Order.
bedroom.
Yeah.
My bedroom door still has stickers that they never removed, where it'll be like K-Rock, the local rock station.
Yeah.
And then like there's a Blink 182 sticker,
A Smith's parking or Smith's ticket stub from
taped
the LA Forum.
Taped to the So that's like the door is a time capsule.
Okay.
I still see that and I go, oh fuck, I like that band.
You should take that door down.
What do you mean, do what with it?
Like replace it, but if there's that many stickers on it, you should take the door and like that's your childhood door. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and like put it, that could be cool. There's not that, it's like maybe 10, 12 stickers, but yeah, the
It's still
idea
kind
of
of cool.
that's
You
cool.
could, you put that up in your home or whatever. Because I think like I'm jealous of you because my home in Pittsburgh is sold, and I would
Right.
love to have gotten to go back and see my old bedroom. I think a lot of people would, but you get to do that.
Yeah. And then, so you sort of like, I mean, it's a kind of a good feeling because you're like, oh yeah, my childhood home, and so many kids like, have moved around or their parents retired somewhere else.
Yeah.
But then I think like you don't get to miss as much, So like my friends who'll go fly home and visit once every year or two and see how things have changed and that sort of thing. That's always been 20 minutes away from me. So it's like good, and there's not as much nostalgia because you see it evolve every year. So you don't go like, what happened to this place?
Yeah.
Like I saw that place close down. There's a for lease sign. I saw them build the new place,
Yeah.
So like when the first Starbucks opened and, they redid the local supermarket, or the Trader Joe's moved or something, you kind of watch it happen.
Yeah, like when I first moved here, you told me to go to Pine Burger, right?
Yeah. In
Burger and
South
Pie? Is it Burger and Pie?
Pine Burger, yeah.
Pie and Burger.
Yeah.
Which would be the opposite way to eat it. That'd be a horrible way to have your meal. Pie first, then burger.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but yeah, you told me about that. And so it must be nice to have those, like, that place hasn't changed since probably the 50s.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure.
been the same forever.
Yeah.
The prices barely have gone up, I don't think, either.
Pretty pricey, though.
Is it now?
Yeah, it was like $9 for a burger or something. I'm like,
Oh, then I guess they have.
yeah. But it was worth it.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah, it's good.
Cash only.
Yeah.
Definitely a time capsule.
Yeah. There's like, I like that aspect of it. Like when people move to these parts,
Right.
Because now you're like, you're married, you have kids, you're obviously going to move out of like
We
Hollywood.
don't discuss them.
Oh, yeah.
Not on the podcast. Not publicly. I don't want anybody to know I'm married with kids.
At all, yeah.
And I'm 28.
28, single.
Yeah,
no
single.
family. I'm an orphan, actually. I don't talk about any family.
Yeah, I actually live with a lesbian and 2 cats.
So when you moved in with your lesbian and 2 cats,
Yes.
you needed more space.
I need more space, yeah.
So then I love when people discover like Pasadena and like, La Crescenta, La Cañada, Montrose and stuff, and they go, have you ever heard I'm like, yeah, I fucking spent my childhood in those
Did you know
parts.
Van Halen's from... Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody who grew up here knows Van Halen's.
There's a really good diner on... I'm like, I've been going there for 23 years.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh. So I like telling people about that stuff, though. I go, dude, if you're going to live here, there's this park. You got to eat there. You got to go there.
Yeah.
And they kind of... So that makes me feel sort of more at home in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because then it's like I can talk about places that before people have had... A lot of people don't even know where the 210 and the 2 are. When you see those freeways, I'm like, yeah, Angeles National Forest. Have you like, what's that? I'm like, that's why people complain. There's no like, there's no like, nature in LA. I'm like, if you look at a map,
it's everywhere. Yeah,
drive up the Angeles National Forest and 15-20 minutes, like you're seeing more stars. There's no city lights.
Yeah,
that's where you go watch like meteor showers and that kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean, here we're right next to Eaton Canyon Park.
Yeah,
and there's a waterfall.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, it's cool.
On the weekends, the parking lot gets so full, people park into our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And when those torrential downpours happened in February, that place was awesome because it was full on, like, you felt like you're in Colorado.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is what it's like where,
there
was water. It's kind of awesome.
Actual nature.
But yeah, there's tons to do here. The John Muir Trail is in Northern California. Yosemite's. I'm shocked at how many people don't go to Yosemite. And it's like, you've been to San Fran, you might as well just go.
Yeah, it's not that far, really.
And it's gorgeous. It's right here in our backyard.
Yeah. Yeah, when people say, like, there's nothing to do over the weekend, you're like, that's a day trip. You could do that without staying at a hotel or anything like that. But yeah, I like those parts of LA that people kind of forget.
It must be weird, though, to, like, because you grew up here and now you live in Hollywood. It must be like going through a Stargate. Because
what do you mean?
This is like so far removed from Hollywood. You're close to it, but I mean, listen here. It's like we're in my backyard.
Yeah,
you can't hear anything at night. It's super quiet, and it's very suburban. And you come here, you don't feel like you're in Hollywood. You feel removed, but Hollywood's right there.
It is,
and it's loud and dirty and skanky and trashy and rich and everything.
Yeah,
everything's right there. So it must be so weird to like have grown up in La Crescenta.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, La Crescenta, La Cañada are kind of like, pretty well-to-do kind of townships.
La Cañada is.
Yeah.
That's pretty rich.
Crescenta is not as well?
La Crescenta is like a middle-class, like the town, city, whatever you want to call it. And then Tahunga, a little further west, is like a more kind of lower class. It's a little better nowadays, but... Yeah, La Cañada was...
So La Cañada, basically, you have like one Latino in your class. La Crescenta, you have like 5 Latinos in your class.
That's not
and
even
then
a joke.
You're the minority.
No, it was mostly... here was the layout was like this. La Cañada was like... The cars were way nicer. The houses were way bigger. When you'd go to people's houses and you're like, how is there a 5-bedroom house? Like, who even uses all these bedrooms? Like, there's 2 stories. There's like some big, nice houses. And it's like mostly white. It's its own city. Like La Crescenta and Tahunga are all in a part of LA County. Like La Cañada is its own city. It has its own school district. Like it's very wealthy.
Yeah.
So we would have nothing in common with the kids over there. So we would hang out with the kids from Tahunga because none of us knew what the inside of a Lexus looked like and like what a 2-story house. It's like I don't know.
Leather seats. What is this?
Yeah, exactly. So, but what was weird about over there is that there were like some skinheads and like white supremacists and stuff.
In Kenyatta?
No, in Tahunga.
Oh.
So part of my childhood was like kind of like being sort of around them. It was a really bizarre thing. There was a lot of white flight that happened in like the 70s and 80s from LA and Glendale and that sort of thing. And so when like I guess a lot of Armenians and like there's a big Korean population around like La Crescenta and in that area. So a lot of like white people were starting to move away.
Yeah.
So to my surprise, I was like, there are like neo-Nazi types that live here, because you go 8 or 10 minutes east, you're in La Cañada, where it's very wealthy and like slightly conservative and like, but in less safe way, and then you go to Tahunga and you're like, oh wow, the cars, everyone's driving like 60s 70s era like beat up kind of muscle cars, and you'd never see higher end vehicles, but a few minutes this direction, a few minutes that direction, everything. And we were kind of right in the middle. Yeah. So La Cañada, mostly white. La Crescenta, mostly white, but a lot of Korean, Armenian, some Latino. And then like, I think my high school had 2 or 3 black kids
Yeah, but you want Asians in your class.
You
want
to get good grades. So you want to sit around.
You want to cheat, or you want to raise the bar. Yeah.
My middle school and high school, there were 2 full pages devoted to the last name Kim. I swear to God.
Are you serious?
You could like one and then the other side and you flip again and then there were that many Kims. Yeah. And then Lee was another one. Yeah. It was crazy.
That's pretty funny.
And none of them were related.
Yeah, of course.
It was fucking nuts how many... It was crazy.
Well, that's funny. I mean, you know, you get married to another Kim, you don't have to change the towels.
Yeah, everything's
nice,
easy. Yeah. The only research you have to do is like, wait, are we related? Like, we should really figure this out before our kids come out weird.
Let's go to Ancestry.com and make sure we're not bumping
exactly.
Here. Yeah.
So, okay, where? Give me the layout of where you grew up.
Well, I was born in Freehold, New Jersey, and I lived there till about 4th or 5th grade. And in Jersey, it was basically...
Where's
it's funny,
Freehold?
I was just talking,
like, what
Freehold, well, Springsteen's from Freehold.
Okay.
So he made, like, Highway 9 and Board to Run. I lived right off of Highway 9.
Whoa, cool.
Right off of it. And it was all... I was just talking to somebody who grew up in Toms River, which is right by Jersey.
Okay.
And when you're growing up in Jersey, you're either Italian or Jewish, and it's bagels and pizza in every strip mall. So, you know, anybody who grew up in Jersey, it just... You grew up with that memory of having fresh bagels, fresh pizza, and it didn't taste like anywhere else. But it was, you know, it was basically, I think, like, because you're so close to New York City, you still have that diversity. So I never grew up thinking anything different of, like, somebody else. I never grew up thinking, you know, uncomfortable around being invited to bat mitzvahs or bar mitzvahs or anything. It was just like... These are just kids I'm in class with, and you don't know any better. And you have black kids and Hispanic kids. Everybody was kind of in my township when I was growing up. So it was, I think there were 2 or 3 other Asian kids in my class. So it was really diverse. And then I moved to Pittsburgh, and then you're just, I mean, it's just a lot of Polish people, a lot of white people, Irish, and being Korean Irish, I was definitely one of, I think maybe 4 Asians in the whole, you know, middle school. Wow. It was really not as diverse, but you know,
at that point where you're like, Mom, Dad, what the fuck? Let's move back to where
well, that's kind of when you realize you're different. I mean, when you know, you get it a little bit from your friends in grade school, but when I moved in like 5th or 6th grade to Pittsburgh, it's junior high school. Kids are learning they can be mean. And
you're like, oh, this works.
That's the first time I remember feeling like, I remember going home. I distinctly have a memory because my father, well, we played baseball in Jersey, and this is, some kid called me Chink, and then the team started calling me Chink. I was playing baseball. And I was like, Dad, what is a chink? And I thought it was kind of like a compliment. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm a good baseball player. I had no clue, you know? Yeah. My dad's like, well, it's a derogatory term. People use it in a negative way.
And then you're like, Dad, what does derogatory mean? I'm only 10.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he was, because, you know, I think when you're something else, you never know anything else until the first time somebody points a finger and goes, you're different.
Yeah.
And that's when I experienced, oh, I'm different. And then I remember looking at the mirror and like putting my hands over my eyelids and just rubbing them and like, I'm different. I guess my eyes are different than everybody else's. And I was just doing this and like staring at my eyes, like my eyes don't look different to me, but I guess other people see it differently. And then I was looking at my mom and I was just staring at her at dinner like, I guess she has different eyes. I never knew that, you know? And that was the first time I realized I'm Korean, okay? I'm different. And then, of course, you are embarrassed by it and you don't accept it. And then I remember my father, when I moved to Pittsburgh, he was always reffing hockey games on the side because he just loved to skate. So he was making extra money just refereeing hockey games. And he plays as well. Yeah. So he's like, this is a great way for you to make extra money. I want you to be a linesman. I'll be the referee. You make like $50 a game. In the weekend, you'll make a few $100. You'll be off to the races.
That's good money for a kid.
It's great, yeah.
Jesus.
So I said, awesome, sign me up. I took a class. I took the test. I got my whistle. I got the outfit. I go out. And the first game, I blew a call. I blew an offsides call. And this team just laced into me. And these are all kids probably my age at the time, probably, 12, 13 or whatever. And everything in the book, everything racial in the book you could imagine you could call an Asian. I heard it all within 5 minutes. Every time I skated past them, I heard it. You're going up and down the ice.
And there's like families around listening.
Families around. Coach didn't call it. I'm in tears.
Really?
Absolutely in tears. Crying with a referee outfit on. Absolutely crying.
No.
And my dad just comes over to me at a break. He goes, Steve, it's okay. Just, you can go off the ice. I said, thank you. And I skated off the ice. And my dad skated over to the team, and he said, that's actually my son, and I'll be refereeing the rest of the game because we didn't appreciate what your team did. Afterwards, the coach came over and apologized to my father, but I never reffed another hockey game again. And it was one of those things where you come home, you're in tears. My mom's like, what's wrong? I just devoted 2 weeks to like learning this stuff and thinking I got money coming in. And I remember my mom crying. My mom was in tears, and she was so embarrassed, and she was like, I should have never moved to this country. She took it all on herself way too hard, and I should have never, moved over here. I'm so sorry I did this to you guys. And you're just like, no. And in that regard, it kind of strengthens the bond between my brother and I with my mom, and it made us stronger. And I think obviously as you get older, you start to learn to accept who you are and appreciate your differences. I think it's like, being an X-Men, when you're young in those movies, these kids are all embarrassed by their powers. Yeah. And then you go to this gifted school, you're like, oh, it's kind of a unique trait that I should be proud of.
I will melt steel beams with my eyeballs.
So I don't know. That's when I learned I was different,
Yeah. Wow. So how did you try and you said something about denying it or hiding it or being ashamed of it? Was there anything specific that you did to
look, when
you try and white it up a lot?
Well, you definitely don't want to, I was adverse to taking Taekwondo. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Anytime my mom or her relatives came over and my cousins, they all speak in Korean. I was like, I'm never learning that. I don't want to learn that. And it wasn't until I got to college, I'm like, I was so ashamed. I'm like, I want to learn to speak Korean. So I spent 2 years studying Korean in college, and of course, with any language, you got to keep up on it. And I drifted off, but it was fun to Would
you speak with your mom at least when you went home?
Yeah. That was great to call my mom, and she would help me with my homework now. Because
that's great.
When I was growing up, my mother was so embarrassed by the fact that she would go out and still to this day speak broken English, that she would take English classes. So ever since I was a little kid up until I was in college, my mother once or twice a week would go to some community college center and take English classes. And so I remember growing up in 4th, 5th, 10th, freshman in college, helping my mom with her homework. I never had a mom that helped me with my homework. So I was always helping her. So it was kind of nice in college to finally have my mom help me with my homework. That's
really fun.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Do you still speak Korean now?
No, I've definitely trailed off. I know, how to say hello, how to say thank you. I was just in Korea on a USO tour for the first time, and I actually got to go visit the camp that my mother was stationed at, Camp Humphreys.
What do you mean stationed at?
In Seoul, Korea. Not she wasn't stationed. She was working there. My father was stationed at Camp Humphreys.
Oh, okay. I was like, your mom was in the military? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, she was working as a waitress, and my father met her there. They fell in love, and he brought her back 2 years later. So that's how they met. So it was kind of cool to go not only to Korea, and entertain the troops, but it was great to be on the base that my mom worked at. And so much has been renovated now that it's one of the largest bases in Seoul. So they're doing this transfer of power now. So all those bases along the DMZ are getting consolidated and turned over to the South Korean government. And so a lot of the troops are moving just a further bit south to Camp Humphreys. So I think it's I forget. I think it's 17 acres. I don't know if that sounds right, but it's it's its own city. It's massive. They have a hospital. They have every town they have the Chili's, the Applebee's, the movie theater, the roller skating rink. They have that there, and you don't feel like
city. Basically,
you don't feel like you're in Korea. You feel like you're in Iowa. It's crazy.
Whoa. There's a Starbucks and fast food places and like
all of it. Yeah, Burger King, Popeyes, Baskin Robbins. But to be on that base, like I did get a slightly emotional because
it'd be great if there was a Koreatown.
Koreatown. Well, they have an Americatown. They have an Americatown. It's called American Village in Korea, outside of Camp Osan, and it was one of my jokes in my second hour special.
Yeah.
Like I was like, every city has a Chinatown. Wouldn't it be great to have an Americatown?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
it's just a bunch of fat people looking for Wi-Fi, dipping food and ranch dressing.
Right.
And then I actually saw America Village, and it was just this one street with a bunch of like chain restaurants and very touristy.
Really funny.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's crazy. So wait, so your parents met? She worked on the base.
She worked on the base as a waitress. Yeah, and her name was Candy, not Okcha, because all the
they just were like, "That's not your name anymore."
All the locals. The guy who hired them all gave them all like American names,
like on their name tag.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So then they met and like kind of fell in love quickly, or was it one of those like he would see her over a period of time and then?
Yeah, I think a lot of those girls obviously have their guard up because it's just like, all right, you're just another dude looking to get laid.
Yeah.
And they definitely he definitely courted her for a while. They dated, and then 2 years you're going back home. It's like,
so they basically dated for the 2 years he was there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say like a year and a half.
Okay.
Because he courted her for a bit.
Yeah.
And, she was resistant as she should have been. Yeah. My mom's not a whore.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and then they moved back here. They lived in Minnesota for another 2 years, and then they moved.
Was
to
that
Jersey.
where your dad was from, or something?
My father actually, they were stationed in Minnesota, but my father actually grew up in New York City in Stuyvesant Town, which is like Lower East Side.
Right.
And Stuyvesant Town is known for being this beacon of education back in the day.
Yeah.
It was very innovative, and it was one of the most sought after, like, kind of public schools, not only in the country, but definitely in New York City.
Yeah.
And, a lot of what's going on with our education system, the downfall occurred slightly thereafter. But it was in its heyday, it was known for its great education. My father, to this day, is one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my life. He's one of those guys that just knows a little something about everything.
Yeah.
All those things in our textbooks that we were forced to memorize just for the test, for some reason, with their education system back then, you were forced to learn it, not to memorize it.
Yeah,
and I'm
to
always,
actually understand the subject.
Yeah, concepts, everything. So everything that I memorized, I've forgotten.
Yeah.
I'm really upset at my education system, but my father had a great education, and he's just a great dude on top of that.
So why did they end up in Minnesota?
Stationed there after the military. They were at another base there, and then he could have signed up again, but he decided, I'm going to get on with my life. So he moved to Jersey and ended up owning a fish market and a sporting goods store in the same strip mall. So he was running two businesses at the same time. And I remember my childhood was riding around in a big wheel throughout the strip mall.
That's
so much
funny.
like Danny and The Shining is going around the motel or the hotel.
Yeah.
That was me. I was always going through the thing with my big wheel. I knew all the shop owners. I'd go into the pizza store next door. They'd give me a cup of fresh cut mozzarella cheese, and I'd just sit outside. I'd eat my cheese. I'd go in and hang out with my dad. It was the best. And he would be making like iron-on T-shirts at a sporting goods store. And I remember Kiss used to scare the fuck out of me because Kiss was popular at the time. So you had all these Kiss iron-ons and Star Trek and Star Wars iron-ons. So as a kid, it was like fucking awesome. I always had fresh pressed Star Wars iron-on shirts.
Wow.
And then he lost a new, like some landlord screwed him out of the deal. So my dad had to get going. And then he went back to community college, got a degree, and he started working at a seafood company. But then his big gig was working for the Yellow Pages. Right. And so he became a salesman for the Yellow Pages, then like a manager. And this is when everybody used the Yellow Pages. This is before the internet. So you always had to use the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
And he got transferred to Pittsburgh, and that's how I ended up moving there. But yeah, growing up, we were not wealthy at all.
Yeah.
I remember when my father even lost his job with the Yellow Pages. I was just eating spaghetti literally for 2 months. We ate spaghetti every day for 2 months. We just had nothing And it was kind of nerve-wracking. And I look back on that time, I can't imagine, like myself having a wife and 2 kids, like not being able to provide for my family. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? It's kind of scary times.
Wow. And then your mom, was she just working before that in the sporting goods store in the fish market?
She was helping out, but she worked the graveyard shift at a light bulb factory. So she would come home and, basically when we're back from school, she'd be taking a nap. So she's like, get out. No babysitter, just open the door, go. Get out of the house. I got to sleep. So my brother and I would just go out, and we lived across the street from a farm on one side, and the other side was another strip mall. Yeah. So there was this kid named Joe, and his father's name is Tony, and they owned the pizza shop.
Yeah.
So what we would do is we would go through the whole strip mall every day and find aluminum cans, put it in a garbage bag, go over to this place where you could recycle the cans, and it would dispense change to you.
Right.
And we'd get like $1 in quarters. And we basically spent 2 hours collecting aluminum cans to spend 4 quarters within 4 minutes on Donkey Kong. It was the worst payoff ever.
That's funny.
Because Donkey Kong's so complicated. But Joe's dad owned the pizza shop, so we just put the quarters in, and they were making money. But in turn, they'd always give us a slice of pizza.
Yeah,
so it was good. It all kind of worked out. So we'd have a slice of pizza, a Coke, and we'd spend all afternoon getting aluminum cans.
Yeah.
And every now and then, my brother would ride the mechanical horse in front of the thing, and we used to this is like when breakdancing was big. We set up cardboard in front of where people enter and exit, and we put a hat out front.
No way.
And we would breakdance for people. We were fucking awful. I mean, garbage.
But it had to be funny and like cute to the parents. Like, oh, look at these kids.
Yeah, every now and then you get a quarter or something or a dime. And again, we go back. And Tapper was the other one. Tapper was was the other video game.
The amount of work you guys did to play Donkey Kong.
To play video games,
let's collect cans. Let's dance.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we did that, and that was kind of like the childhood back then. And then obviously in Pittsburgh, it was much different. I was so involved in hockey. I was playing on a travel team, on my middle school team, and like when I was in 8th grade, I was playing varsity hockey.
Wow.
So I was really, really obsessed with hockey. I loved it. I was playing at the tennis courts all the time in high school. We live right by the park, so I was obsessed with hockey. And at the time, Mario Lemieux and the Penguins and Jaromir Jagr, it was a dynasty. And to get to grow up with not only idolizing hockey, but literally one of the greatest players of all time is playing during your run of growing up there. It was. I just got so lucky. It was the best.
So did playing sports and having like a sort of like a community within the community make you feel like more accepted?
Yeah, look, moving to Pittsburgh at that time was the worst thing you could put a kid through, because junior high schools, you're going through puberty, you're confused, you feel isolated, nobody gets you, you want to fit in.
Yeah.
It was fucking awful. You want to be cool, you're discovering girls for the first time.
Right.
And I moved right at that moment, and it was fucking awful. I'll never forget my first day. I was on the bus. I was the last pickup to go to the high school because I lived so close. So I walked after this incident to high school because I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm not riding the bus again.
Bus.
I go on the bus. There's one empty seat. It's next to a girl. And I sat in the aisle instead of the girl.
Why?
I was so nervous and like stage fright and uncomfortable. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a soul. And this kid said something. He's like, why don't you sit next to that girl? Were you a fucking fag?
Oh, no.
And I go, I'm not a fag. I'm Crusher Bone Smith.
What the fuck?
I have no idea why the fuck I said that. And this kid became one of my best friends named Brian Doherty. And he was a cool kid. He knew everybody. So he goes, as soon as I get into school, he goes, beware everybody, that's Crusher Bone Smith. So people call me Crusher Bone Smith for like 2 weeks. And it was so fucking,
And 2 weeks back then feels like an eternity.
Oh my God, got made fun of, got shit on, got ostracized, eating lunch by yourself. I mean, you can't even eat with the nerds. I remember walking to the first dance by myself, not knowing a soul, and everybody had to sign like Talbot's, 92 classic, whatever the thing is, the, little pep rally sign. Oh my God. And I wrote Crusher Bone Smith, and just like, I feel deceitful to myself. Just write your own name. You're a loser. And it was just so uncomfortable. And I remember this one kid, his name's John Zatola, and I ended up becoming friends with him and his family after this. But for 2 weeks, maybe like a week, he just called. Every time I passed him in the hall, he called me Chink. He's like, you chink, you chink. And he just say it under his breath.
And he probably didn't even really know why. He was just like, that guy's just different.
Saying it, yeah.
I got to just say that. It makes me feel better about myself somehow.
And you just are like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? So I told my dad. My dad's like, if he calls you that again tomorrow, beat the shit out of this kid.
Cool.
And I'm like, all right.
He signed off
Marching
on it.
orders from
Had
Dad.
you been in a fight before that ever?
Yeah, like little tussles and stuff.
Like where
but
a few shoves
like
and then they
on
break
the
it
playground
up.
And shit, but
Okay.
nothing major.
Okay.
So this kid, lo and behold, I walked down the hall next day. You chink. It was like Ralphie from A Christmas Story. All that rage and anger that had been building up for a week. Just get this kid on the ground, just fucking wail on him. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Just punch and punch and punch. They pull me off, pull him off.
And then some other kid was like, that's why they call him Crusher Bones.
So I got pulled off. And then after that, I was just like, I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
And what I learned was, in retrospect, that's when I developed a sense of humor. Because I was like, I'm not cool.
After you beat the living shit out of the kid, that's when you're like, I'm funny.
I mean, looking back, I'm sure I didn't beat the shit, not like a Jean-Claude Van. I'm sure it was like 2 or 3 punches.
Yeah.
And then we got separated, know? But in my mind, it's like, I was fucking wailing this guy and blood everywhere. But yeah, I was just like, what can I do to garner friends?
Yeah.
And so, you try a few different things, and then all of a sudden, one day you make a kid laugh. It's like, I'm going to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And then I developed a sense of humor, and over the course of those 6 years that I was in Pittsburgh, those formative years, junior high school and high school, I was just goofy and insecure and always quick to make a joke.
Yeah.
My high school was so great because there's some teachers or faculty that'll see you exhibit something and shun that. Whereas Hampton Township, for me, they really provided me with the outlet to do things. I remember my history teacher, Mr. Garber, I think in 8th grade, I did a spot-on impression of him back then. He talked like this, and he'd get real high-pitched when he was emotional.
Right.
And I developed this impression, and he'd go, all right, if you guys are good today, Steve can impersonate me with the last 2 minutes of class.
Really?
And so,
that's the coolest teacher ever.
Yeah, I would just impersonate him for 2 minutes and make the class laugh, make him laugh. And then when I got to high school, at the end of the pep rally, they would let me go up and just do whatever you want. They go, okay, here's the microphone, and now Steve Byrne. And
really?
I would prepare something for the pep rally. It was
So
just
you were doing stand-up.
I was basically doing stand-up for the pep rally. And so the faculty and staff there were like, he exhibits this showmanship. Let's let him do that. And every pep rally, I got to do something fun and creative.
Whoa.
And, the talent show, I got to do something fun and creative. And, you get voted class clown and everything. But you never in a million years think, I'm going to make a living out of this.
Yeah,
You're just like, I'm just a
career.
goofball. I'm just the wacky friend. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm surviving now in school. Great.
yeah. You're class clown, and that
Yeah.
you get voted class clown, and you go on with your life. And never in a million years, I was never into stand up. Never wanted to watch stand up. I remember when I was growing up, everybody had the Eddie Murphy and Dice cassette tapes that they would pass to each other. Never listened to it. Never. I could care less. I was just goofing off.
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe that teachers, like, you either see that on TV shows or in movies where they're like, okay, at the end of the class, you're like, that shit never happens. Teachers never let students do that shit. But I've heard now a few different times.
Yeah, I remember Mr. Garber this one time.
That's so cool.
I remember I took my shoes. He'd always draw the curtains. And so, like, there was this, like, AC unit or whatever it is, and I put my shoes on top of it so it looked like I was standing behind the curtains, and I hid in the closet. And I remember I put my shoes kind of towards his desk, And he went a half hour without even noticing that I wasn't in the classroom. And then he saw these shoes. He goes, he's like, Byrne, get out of there. And then he comes over and pulls it back. And I was in the closet. I was like, when were you going to, I was dying in that closet. He's like, and the class all laughed and stuff. But like, I think some teachers would be like, you're going to the principal's office.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. We don't got time for this. But he just laughed it off, and he thought it was the greatest thing. And I don't know. I look back on that time. It's just like, what a cool dude.
Students respected that teacher more too, right?
Yeah.
They were like, he's laid back. He's kind of easy to get along with. Because there's always a pushback when a teacher's really strict. Then a lot of kids like want to do something else to get under their skin, or they just like automatically dislike authority. Yeah. But if a teacher's like laughing and having a good time with the students, like, I feel like they're more likely to listen when they're supposed to.
Yeah, I think it's the same with a parent too. I mean, we all had friends that had super strict parents, and those are the first kids to do drugs, to go fucking buck wild and go crazy.
Yeah.
And I dated a girl in high school that her parents were super strict, and these kids got straight A's. They were good students, and the minute they graduated and were off on their own, just a wire went loose or something on all of them. Whoa. So they're all kind of, and you're thinking, oh, these kids are going to be successful.
Yeah.
Oh.
They just went crazy. The second the leash came off, they were like, drugs and...
Yeah.
Whoa.
Just different kind of kids. Yeah.
So did you eventually, like, through high school become, like, you found, like, your footing, sort of? You were like, okay, now I got some friends, people like me, because I'm, like, funny, and I get along with people, and then, like, you figured out there was no... How soon after the I can't sit next to a girl on the bus turned into, like, I can finally talk to some girls and...
Well, I mean, look, I was always insecure with girls. I never kissed a girl until I graduated high school. I got my diploma and I kissed a girl, and she was a freshman. And it wasn't until like college. I think that's why college, or those years, even if you don't go to college, between 18 and 22, those are such formative years, because I think that's when you really discover you're on your own for the first time. That's when you truly discover who you are. And I was always insecure with girls. And I felt being Asian was a hindrance in terms of, being attractive to girls. I mean, what girl's going to date an Asian dude, especially in the 90s when hip-hop's so huge and, on ESPN, it's black athletes all the time. And, it's just like, what do I have to look forward to? What inspiration do I have? It's like Bruce Lee died a year before I was born. So,
right.
That's really it. That's all you got to look forward to in terms of even like pop culture references.
Yeah, there was no like masculine sort of like hero figure of the Asian community, I guess.
Nothing. So, so I got to college, and that's when, it was like, I remember the first time this girl was attracted to me, I was like, holy, what? This is crazy. You're attracted. This is nuts. And she was really cute girl.
Yeah.
The kind of girl that would like come in the dorm and all the guys would be like, who the fuck is that girl?
Oh, yeah.
She's like, she's with this dude? And, you're just kind of shocked. And I'll never forget, she goes, I think you have gorgeous eyes. And I was like, it goes against everything I was conditioned to believe when I was growing up.
You start thinking this woman's crazy or something.
Completely delusional. I'm like, you must be high. Did you smoke?
Like guys
before
in
you
white
came over
coats
here?
are about. They come and take her mid conversation. Oh, that makes sense. She escaped from the local mental ward.
But she was saying, no, you got great. And I'd never known that I had green eyes until that girl had mentioned it. I'd gone 18, 19 years of my life without knowing I had green-colored eyes.
How is that even? You've never filled out a form? What color are your eyes?
Nobody ever said anything to me. Nobody complimented it. Nobody acknowledged it. And I just never... Because you grow up just looking at yourself every day in the mirror. You don't think anything different. I never did.
Did you think like I don't have attractive features growing up? Or did you just not even think about... Because that's how I was. Because I was not... Like, I was a very late bloomer. And I was like, the only thing I had was I was tall, but I didn't even carry that well. Like I was like hunched over and kind of just, I was not comfortable in my own skin. So like I never had any sort of like, you have good blank, whatever the feature was.
Right.
It was always like, you have a big nose, you're like, like awkward and unpopular. So no one said anything positive.
Right.
So for me, I don't know about you, I took it and started thinking in the negative. Like, oh, I'm ugly and I don't have, and my insecurity got to where I thought a lot of features were like bad and like I wish I had. Essentially, my thing was I wish I was white because that's what is considered attractive.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, I also had, this is something I left out, I had horrible acne growing up.
Oh, yeah, mine was kind of bad, too.
Really bad acne.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how bad my acne was. My acne was so bad, my senior class picture, my parents didn't order any copies. I swear to God.
For that reason?
It was so bad. They're like...
Oh, my... But it ended up in the yearbook.
Yeah, but it's black and white.
But still, you'd probably be able to see... I mean, color would have been way worse.
There used to be days where my acne was so bad, I faked sick because I couldn't go to class.
Oh my!
Because you couldn't wear a hat in high school.
Oh yeah.
So I couldn't, and it was always on my forehead and always on my cheeks. Always on my cheeks. It was so bad, and so when you have like bad acne, and you're 110 pounds,
yeah,
and
were you tall? Because you're pretty tall.
I'm tall now, but when I was a freshman, sophomore, and I'd even say junior year, I was always one of the shortest in my class.
Okay.
My senior year, I don't know what happened, but I just shot up.
Yeah.
I think I was 5'6" when I was a freshman because I remember the newspaper wrote an article about me playing hockey.
How short you were.
And how short I was on the ice and how I was just drilling people. But
okay, cool.
I remember being tiny, and I was always one of the smallest, fastest kids. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to be fast. And then senior year, I just sprouted up. And acne... bad. I didn't know what hair products were. My dad didn't have hair, so I didn't know what pomade was or a gel or anything. I just went in and I wet my hair down in the morning and then just poofed out during the day. And it was thick Asian. I looked like a fucking mess. If I was... Angelina Jolie would never adopt me if she saw me in one of those...
how bad.
That's how bad I was. Yeah.
That's funny.
Bad. So yeah, I definitely felt unattractive. I had no self-confidence, no self-worth.
You got to use that line in your stand-up. Angelina wouldn't even adopt me.
But I think it's the old adage, and so many people tell you this when you're younger. It's like, just remember, all the cool kids now are not going to be so cool.
Yeah, it really does go the opposite way.
Yeah.
The late bloomers end up figuring out, like they become like, more attractive or come into their own, and then they like keep all the skills and things that they spent learning when they were younger because they weren't popular, reading and educating themselves and knowing shit about pop culture, and then it becomes this like combination of like really cool things. Is where the kids that were popular in school just spent all that time sitting around playing sports, and then now they're all like broke plumbers and
and they they got married early. But I think it's good to go through that because it's just like if you became famous at 22 or you became famous at 42,
right,
you're going to appreciate it a lot more at 42 than you would at 22.
And you'd be more grounded. I think that's what it boils down to. Like if the later you become successful in whatever it is, like popularity, career, whatever, you've gone through so much shit, provided you don't become like a bitter asshole. You're more grounded about it.
Yeah. Because it's so funny to hear you say you're a late bloomer, which I wouldn't assume, but because I've always known you as being like this cool, I wouldn't say brooding, but like there's like a dark, fun presence about you. Yeah. And mysterious and like if you were in high school now, you'd be like the cool guy that's in alternative music, right? Great sense of humor, and so it's so funny to like hear that about you because when we work together on the road, I'll come out of the green room a little later, and you'll be at the bar, and there'll be like 5 or 6 girls around you,
right?
And you're holding court, and the thing about you is you won't even go out with them. You'll just be like talking to them and flirting. You're not a pig. You're a good dude, but it's like so nice to think of like what you used to be in high school, and boy, you think, boy, I'm never gonna get laid, and I'm never gonna meet girls, and then flash forward 10, 15 years later.
I did have a period of time where I just would, because it was like a sense of like, oh, I can get girls and I can get laid, so I was like making up for lost time and getting revenge on my old self, where it's like, okay, now you can't, now do this, go figure this out, or and then like you kind of, I'm 35 now, it's like you got to calm down at some point, But yeah, it is funny that like when you meet someone in adulthood, sometimes you just kind of assume that's how they've always been. So like in my head, you've always been tall,
Yeah.
Even in ninth grade, which it doesn't make sense. Like, everyone goes through puberty. Why would everyone why was everyone always tall and this and that? And yeah, like the level of popularity, like in my head, your teenage you is like adult you, where you're charming, you're cool, you're a good looking dude, you have friends, you're great at hockey, you're all these different things. And like, you were probably one of the fucking guys.
Yeah, well, I was annoying as fuck when I was younger. I know that.
Right.
I was annoying. I was insecure. And the thing I think about too, in high school, when I graduated, I was friends with everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
But when people graduated, you take pictures with your cliques, right?
Uh-huh.
So everybody got together with the cliques, and I didn't have a clique to take a picture with because I was always, Friday I'll hang out with them, Saturday I'll hang out with them, Tuesday I'll eat lunch with them,
Okay.
Friday I'll eat lunch. You know, I was always like just kind of like going
Bouncing
through
around.
and bouncing through, and I'd hang out with these guys for a week, and then so I never had a clique, which it never dawned on me until I graduated, and I was like, oh shit, I don't have a clique. I've just always been by myself, which I never realized.
But
until
not
then.
like a loner, because you were you were friends
Not
with
a
everybody.
loner. Yeah, I was popular. I was fun to hang out with back in. I was always cracking jokes.
So what clique did you end up taking the photo with? You had to, I assume,
My folks. I took pictures with my folks, and then afterwards, I remember even everybody got together with their friends and parents and went to like Pizza Hut or something.
Yeah.
And I just went out with my parents. You know, I hung out with my folks, and that was kind of it. And so I think like in college, and then definitely in stand-up, like knowing that you're comfortable in this, especially profession of solitude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine being alone.
Yeah.
I enjoy being alone, and I don't need to be with the same group of people all the time. I think in some ways maybe it's hurt my career because I was never friends with, like, if you literally turn on any trailer for movie that is starring comedian or has comedians in it, or any of these TV shows, it's very cliquey. It's the same group of people all the time. And I just was always like, you know, I'm friends with them, but I'm not like gonna hang out with them Friday or Saturday night and stuff.
Yeah,
like
it's not
I'm
like you're
cordial
part of
and
the group.
acquaintance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've just always been that way with even stand up. I've just been like, I'm friends with everybody, but there's very few people I actually
Where do you think that came from? You didn't like kind of like buy into like, this is the group I'm gonna like. Was there just like something in you that never wanted to like always be associated with one group of people? Like, was it like I want to spread it around and be popular and know that I can, you know, be friends with everyone and then just kind of go home? And
I just like being by myself. I like figuring things out on my own. I like to take walks by myself. When I first moved to LA, I would just dream going up and down Venice. I'd sit outside and watch the stars and the moon. I'd just sit there for an hour thinking of all the shit I'm going to do. I'm going to fucking do this. I'm going to do that. It's going to be fucking great.
Yeah.
I would just dream. And you couldn't do that if you were drinking with your buddies and stuff.
That's true.
Believe me, I was trying to get laid. I was trying to meet girls. I was trying to do stuff after shows. But I was always just dreaming. And even now, you know, my wife will go to bed. My kids will go to bed. I'll get my headset on.
Cats.
Yeah, I'll try to
a lot of people
get
in this
attacked
house.
by a bear.
You know, a wife, kid, lesbian, 2 cats.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just walk around and you just think, and I really like doing that.
I've always had that too. Like I mean, I was the opposite of you. I didn't like get to the end of high school and have a lot. I still ended up only having 2 or 3 friends. I was very withdrawn. Was not popular. It just didn't work out for me. And then, but being alone, I grew to be very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You could always like count on that, and I could, you know, think and I had known already I wanted to do stand up like during high school, but like it became like a good career choice for the solitude part, you know.
Yeah, I think like, you know, even doing stand up, you and I have worked together quite a bit, and we're 2 people that literally when the show's done, we could go to a diner, we go to a bar, we could go back to the hotel and just kind of crash or see a movie or whatever. And I think there are a lot of people that can't cope with that loneliness.
Yeah. And
I'm not saying all comics, I wouldn't stereotype, but I think a majority of comics do hit the sauce or smoke pot because they can't cope with being alone, or they can't cope with, you know, the isolation of the profession.
Yeah. It is funny, like for me, like, I have so much I can find so much to do. I'll fill my schedule with like all this stuff that like it just interests me. Like if we go to whatever city, I'll be like, oh cool, I can't wait to like check out this, go here. There's not enough time in a day sometimes for me where we'll meet up for lunch or like dinner before the show. And it's like, what'd you do? And I'm like, well, I did this, visited there, went there. I wish I had time for this, maybe tomorrow. And what'd you do? You're like, I was writing, I did this, I was on the phone. So like we fill our days with shit, and we're never like, I was just lonely all day.
Well, those are the comics I think that go, oh, I just woke up at 4. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's like, well, what are you running from?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like to just figure. But yeah, I mean, certain people end up learning how to like use that like, you know, solitary time and like, not resent it or you know, feel like depressed within it. You know? Which I guess is pretty useful because there's just going to be times in life where you're alone. You know,
completely, and I think it's. I think that there are, you know, you're either a dog or a cat. And I'm definitely a cat. I like to be by myself. I like to figure things out on my own. I don't mind going to the movie by myself. I don't mind going to a restaurant by myself. I'm totally comfortable sitting in a restaurant without even my phone and eating there and just daydreaming and thinking and eating food.
Some people
can't do that.
Isn't that crazy? Like, I couldn't imagine. I'm like, why not? Are you worried that people are watching and going, that guy's alone or she's not with any friends? It's like, who cares? I prefer eating. I really do prefer eating alone a lot of the time. Like especially if I know I'm going to be doing stuff later. I'm like, well, I'm just like, I want this hour to myself, and then I'm going to go hang out with fucking 9 people for the next 4 hours at a show. Like, give me a minute, you know?
It's even like with stand-up, too, I think sometimes, you know, like when I go home or I go to like Jess's family's place or sometimes I'll hang out with a group of friends, I'm so quiet. I don't say anything. And it's just like, why are you just so quiet? It's just like, I just spent 4 days being the center of attention and talking to 350 people
for hours.
An hour straight. The last thing I want to do is talk.
And after the show. This 30, 40
Yeah.
minutes sometimes where you're like taking pictures, saying hi, having conversations. It's like, it ends up being like 3 or 4 hours a night sometimes.
Yeah, the last person I want to hear talk is myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I
feel like I've run out of shit to say for now.
Yeah.
Let me be quiet by myself and think of new thoughts and ideas I want to explore.
Yeah,
then...
I just want to put my headphones in and listen to Noel Gallagher or Vampire Weekend for an hour straight, not think, not do anything. That's it.
Yeah. Are you close with your parents now?
Much closer than look. When I was younger, I was always close with my folks, but I think like
because they stayed together, they're still together.
They're still together now.
That's cool.
And when you're in high school, you take your parents for granted. You know, look, you're going through so much hormonally that you're just. I was on edge all the time. I had a short fuse.
Right.
I didn't want anything to do with my parents. Like, get the fuck away from me. I'm hanging out with my friends. I'm by myself. Get the fuck out. You know, just so angry and just confused And then, you know, you go to college and you're independent, you appreciate them a little bit more. And throughout the duration of my career, they've been nothing but supportive. My first 2 months of stand-up, 3 months, maybe 4 months of stand-up, open mics, New York City, they were my 2 paying customers so I could do 5 minutes of stand-up.
That's
every
unheard
fucking
of.
weekend. And I'm telling you, they sat through some shitty shows.
Oh, yeah, open mics?
They sat through my horse shit.
Yeah.
2 hours, 3 hours, they'd sit there and just sit there and order Coke or order Sprite and watch horse shit. And, you know, when you get a show on the air and then your mom's being portrayed on it's just like, that's when it's worth it. When your parents saw me on The Tonight Show for the first time, they're like, so fucking proud. And so that galvanized you. But I think ultimately what really makes adulthood come full circle is when you have another child, because everything, it's almost like you're seeing life on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah.
You can look at yourself every day, but now you're kind of on the other side and you're seeing the real you. You're not looking at a reflection of you. You're seeing you. And I had a different appreciation for my parents. Everything just, the first time you hold a kid, you're like, as much, it's almost like you don't know what love truly is until you hold a child in your arms, because you have a different type of love for a child, but you also experience the love that your parents gave you.
You actually you really understand it.
Yeah. You never truly can love your parents, I think, until you have a kid. That's just my own personal opinion, because once that happened, everything just clicked for me, and I understood everything they ever did.
Wow.
It was almost like somebody plugged that Matrix plug in the back of your head. You're like, I get it.
You're online now.
And you just apologize for everything you ever did. You say, I love you for everything you ever did. And for me, at least for my upbringing, I know everybody has different upbringings. Some people have bad childhoods, some have great childhoods. My parents were always great, always supportive. They, it was never a trophy generation. It was never like, you got to earn everything. You be sweet to everybody. You treat people with respect. Golden rule. You're not special. You know, you're special to me, but you're not special to anybody else. Yeah. You got to earn special, all that shit, So really old school, but until I had kids, like now I give my dad a hug and we just embrace for 2 or 3 more seconds more. And that's the difference, And my mom, I talk to her a little bit more on the phone and I hug them just a second more. And, I get it now. I totally get it. I don't know. That's just my own perception. I know people have different experiences and it'll relay into what they convey. But for me, I think you can love a wife and not me, but people's wives come and go. I just think that child that you have, it just, when I see like an NBA player has like 8 kids, it's like, how the fuck can you do that? How the fuck can you have a kid and just like not even be in that kid's life, but just think, I'm going to write a check. That kid's fine. Yeah. Just like, I don't know. Having kids is the greatest experience of my life by far. It's just the best.
You have 2 now?
Yeah.
What, are you going to have like another one?
You're done.
Yeah. It's the single greatest thing ever. No more kids.
No more kids. Yeah. It is rewarding.
I mean, 2 sounds like plenty. I have a younger brother and plenty for my parents. It was just so much to do, especially with me.
Living
I was
in California, it's like I can't afford another kid.
Oh yeah.
Because this place, you're getting taxed out the wazoo. The public schools suck. I'm paying property taxes. I can't even send my. It's just like it's $6,000 for preschool.
Whoa.
When I went to Kent State, it was $8,000 for the year.
Oh my God!
And these kids take a nap in crayons, and it's $6,000. What the fuck
are they teaching? What kind of crayons?
Jesus Christ! It's like my next TV credit should be The Price is Right, so I can get some money to like live here. It's fucking nuts here.
Yeah.
But
holy shit. So I've heard you talk a lot about like the values you want to like instill in your kids from like your parents and what they gave you and that sort of thing. They grew up in like a different time, obviously, and a lot of the things that you talk about are like from that era. Mm-hmm. Are there things that you kind of learned or saw growing up, like from either your family or the other families in the neighborhood or community, that you're like, I don't want to carry that over into this modern day, and here are things that I disagreed with? Because you have like your outlook on a lot of things is very like independent and is there to like build a solid person, like that. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You earn success. This no trophy. Like, I love all that stuff. Like, I think that makes you like a tough individual. And I heard when you did my new material show, you started working on a bit about obviously I won't say it, but like about what makes you kind of like a solid individual. And that's another thing where I'm like, yes, that, you know. And those are things you don't hear that much of. There's people, you do, but you also now hear people say more like, well, we should complain more about things and, kind of just get things without trying in a certain way.
Yeah.
And part of me falls somewhere in the middle, because you go, sometimes the deck is stacked against you. Sometimes things are unfair.
Yeah.
And it's not always as easy as like, I gotta like just, try and get things done.
Right.
So I think like you get to a point where you go like, I need a little from column A and like a little from column B. So like, what for you personally are you going to like say, I won't do this the way the previous generations did for like my kids and my family?
I think there's a whole generation of kids. And again, I don't want to, stereotype millennials or whatever, but I think for every kid that grew up, being part of a trophy generation, there's another kid that came from the school of hard knocks. So I'm not going to generalize and say it all, but I think for me personally, when it comes to my kids growing up, it's like, and especially you and I both know, coming up in stand-up comedy, this is one of the most difficult professions. It's so unforgiving. There's very few professions that are so unregulated. It literally is the Wild West. There is no sheriff. There is no president. There is no corporate entity that is going to say, it's Youssef's turn.
Right.
It's Byrne's turn. Nobody.
And now
the
more
only
than
person
ever,
who's going to do that is you. And so I'm going to tell my kids, this world doesn't owe you shit. Nobody owes you shit. I don't owe you shit. You don't owe you shit. The only person that is going to attain anything for you is you. And it's determined upon how much you're willing to work and earn it. But ultimately, you want to be happy in whatever you choose to do, because we're two people who followed our bliss. And I know for a fact, on my worst day as a stand-up comic, it's better than my best day in a cubicle. In a weird universe where Steve Byrne is in Ohio, talking, excited to go golfing with his boss and hope to get a promotion. It's just like, I could care that life is absolutely my nightmare. But in terms of like kids these days, and I think the outlook right now, like right now, it's socially acceptable to look. If you're going to think it's stereotypical to think every time a cop pulls over a black person, that black person deserves to be pulled over. It's like, well, that's fucking horrible.
Well, I mean,
that's a stereotype. You shouldn't think that all black people are criminal. They're obviously not. And I think that all these great documentaries that are coming out show that, and every time there's something on the news, it's like, when is this sect of our population going to catch a break and just get the respect that every human being should be given without being generalized? So if you go under the guise of that, then I think you should also go under the guise of not generalizing, stereotyping white people, because right now it is in fashion to say that there is white privilege. Well, to anybody who truly believes that there is white privilege in terms of, well, you're white, you can drive down the street and not get pulled over by a cop. Okay, well, that's the argument you hear. But I'm telling you, somebody who grew up in the Rust Belt, drive through West Virginia, watch Cops. Cops is not all black. It is a lot of white. You can say white trash. You can vilify white people on CNN. They generalize some Trump voters as white trash. It's like, why is it that you can say that? I think it's really, really disrespectful in terms of.
I guess because they're in power. You can shit on the people. If like, I guess kicking someone while they're down is like, I mean, they already had it bad enough. Like,
but if the ultimate goal is to garner respect from everybody and have everybody on an equal playing field saying, you know what, I respect you as my equal, you respect me as your equal. If you want respect, then you got to give respect, and you cannot vilify to the degree that I think our country is doing right now in terms of the political spectrum. And I think racially, white people for the last 8 years have been this unsolicited punching bag where you go on Huffington Post, it's just like, look at all these white people together. Something bad's going to happen. It's like, that's such a shitty clickbait kind of thing. And again, it goes against what that person that wrote that article ultimately wants, is for an equal playing field and true respect amongst everybody. And that's always been my perspective. And I think I absolutely want to pass it down to my kids, that respect everybody across the board. And nobody, look, the 1% in this country, those are the people that should get shit on, because those kids are growing up. The Hiltons, the Kardashians, these kids that just walk into a blissful life, that just have money. That's who I understand giving a little guff to.
Those people
for
are
the
usually
most part, you got to earn your keep.
So what about something like, I guess a good example for like the things that people accepted in the past and I guess don't now to a degree, something like bullying.
Yeah.
Like that's something you could argue like, makes a man or an adult or whatever. And like there's a healthy amount of that probably will prepare you for a life of, of potential hardships, like depending on what you're going to get into. Because I'm somewhere in the middle on that. I was bullied. And
everybody's bullied.
It scarred me in some ways, for sure. Yeah. But then in other ways, I'm like, man, this can't be as bad as when I was just like an unsure, insecure, like, kid who didn't know, anything about the world.
I think bullying is a tough subject because it is such a great... Look, you and I grew up. We got shit on. We got made fun of. You feel like an asshole.
Yeah.
You cry about it. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You go on with your life, right? I cannot imagine growing up with the magnitude of having an embarrassing situation played out on the internet.
I know.
Globally, for not just your township, not because a high school is confined within the bricks of that high school.
Right.
And if you're embarrassed in school, okay, fuck. But if you move to New York City, nobody gives a shit about it. You are scarred and branded for life by an incident that could be on the internet that could go viral, or even if 1,000 people see it. It's embarrassing. So I get that aspect. And to these kids that like kill themselves or commit suicide with the bullying, I think the schools need to do a better job at policing it, especially online bullying, because that's, I think, 95% of the shit that goes down with these kids. It comes from being embarrassed because these kids put such a commodity into likes and retweets and their social media.
And the day never ends. At least like when we were in school, you could be bullied and 3:05 p.m. you're like, okay, it's over till 8:05 tomorrow morning.
Yeah, go home and get my lunch money, and they'll take it from me again tomorrow.
So go to the arcade, hang out at home, watch TV, like kind of decompress and get away from it. But the bullying never ends now.
Because it's always on your phone.
On your phone, on your computer. You're hearing about it 24 hours a day. That's got to be crazy. Unless like they're, used to it to a degree that we never were. If you grow up kind of like, always online
but bullying is a part of life.
I think it is,
as much as you don't want to acknowledge it. Look, kids are fucking mean. Kids are always going to be mean, and it's a part of life.
Mean.
Are you going to tell me that you went to the bank to get a loan, you didn't get bullied? Are you going to tell me that if you owe the IRS money, that they're not going to fucking bully you and call you and shut down your bank accounts, and ruin, any transaction you want to occur if you owe the government money? You're going to get bullied every facet of the way.
Yeah,
you
get bullied at your jobs.
You're going to get bullied as a stand-up. You get bullied by the audience. You get shit on. Fuck you. You're not fucking funny.
Yeah.
Well, fuck. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. And then you take that to heart. Of course it hurts.
Yeah.
You're going to get bullied everywhere. So you got to get used. You can't outlaw bullying. But I think especially these days when it comes to kids and it comes to social media, the schools need to do a better job, and the communities and the townships need to do a better job at cracking down on that. And I don't believe ever in zero tolerance, but there needs to be like a 95% intolerance of that stuff, and find a way to correct it, because it's so new that they haven't found it yet. But hopefully they do. Hopefully they find it before my fucking kids go to school.
I was going to say, like being a parent now must be just so like, there's so much uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Like technology's changing every 5 fucking days, where you're like, okay, well now what do I do? Like there's things that you have yet to understand because they're just happening. And then you got to like pass that on to like the kids, and who knows what is going on in school in terms of like what access they have to devices and all this sort of stuff. It must be like, the anxiety and the sort of like constant attention to making sure like you have a handle on every new thing.
Yeah. The thing that sucks, I think, with foresight, is that you and I grew up without the internet.
Yeah.
Okay. In our formative years. Yeah. So there's no time capsule from back then that you could look up.
Yeah.
People went back to Tom Hardy's MySpace and found some pictures.
Really?
It's embarrassing. And they put it up and they post it. And it's kind of funny.
Wait,
right?
when was that? I got to look that up.
Just recently, yeah.
Oh, cool. I got to look that up.
Funny stuff, like him in his underwear and shit, and he's being goofy.
Yes.
But these kids now, from the age of whenever you get a cell phone, 8, 9, 10, whatever, they have these little social media platforms for kids.
Right.
And these kids are putting things out there that decades from now could come back and haunt them.
Yeah.
And that to me is scary.
Yeah.
That to me is like, why are you going to judge a kid for what he did when he was 10 or 13 or 18 or 22? They should have the ability, because it happens when anytime a stand-up comic gets something great, you get booked on SNL, you get your own TV show, some fucking reporter from Gawker or Vulture or AV Club is going to go through your Twitter timeline. Look at this racist tweet he wrote.
Yeah.
When he had the Twitter account for 2 months, he said something immature.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Yeah. He should be able to do that.
Yeah. Wow. Are you gonna teach your kids Korean?
They're a quarter, so probably not.
Just like a handful of words.
Yeah, my mom actually teaches my daughter. My daughter actually picked it up. She still knows Korean words to this day.
Cool.
She uses every now and then, and she speaks gibberish and tries to pretend she's teaching my son. But it should be something they're in touch with, because it is it is the quality that will make them different. And it is part of their history, and I think it should be something that they should be proud of, as much as that they are Irish as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess how in touch are you with your Irish roots?
I think a lot more because of the Jameson. But but I've been to Dublin 2 or 3 times, and Koreans and Irish have a very similar history. And I think it really does brood through in my personality that these are two land masses that have been fought over for centuries, just warred over. And so there is this chip on the shoulder.
Right.
Koreans are known to be the Irish of the Asians because they're so outgoing. They like to party.
Yeah.
They're not as isolated as you go to another country like Japan or Korea. There's almost like this recluse kind of quality that Asians have, even in this
especially
country.
Japan for a long time.
Asians, and I think that this goes to a bigger picture of the fact that why Asians aren't more prominent in pop culture is because Asians in general have come to this country en masse and done everything they can to assimilate.
Yeah.
And through assimilation, they've lost a sense of identity.
Sure, yeah.
And so because of that, there aren't these pop culture mileposts that have, littered our nation's pop culture history.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. So hopefully,
I think that's been starting to change.
Starting to change
with a lot
of
ethnic groups. You'll see more representation of
but that's just diversity casting. It's like, okay, so Yang's in Silicon Valley, or so there's just like these little shows, or like
I agree. That's like kind of like you guys are complaining. Well, here's a guy in a show now.
Yeah.
I find that to be kind of like offensive a little bit when
every commercial is the black and white guy.
Yeah. But I think that now you'll see more like examples, kind of like a Margaret Cho or like an Aziz Ansari, where these guys are coming into their own, and they're like, you're not just casting me as the Asian friend or the Indian, like I'm my own thing, and I'm beyond being like a Korean or an Indian this. And like I think there's more of those people starting to surface because there is an audience for it, and it doesn't have to be like based on an ethnicity, and entertainment and stuff is just becoming more of a global thing. So like the Indian comedian or the Asian actor is not just playing to the lower 48. They're playing to the world.
Aziz and barring Cosby, his current situation right now, but Cosby Show was great because it was a family that happened to be black. And Aziz is a great talent that happens to be Indian. And I think it doesn't matter. It's just, is the story great? Is what they're communicating interesting? And I think that's why Aziz's show does well. I think that's why the Cosby Show did well. And so on and so forth. I think that's why Margaret is truly a pioneer for Asian Americans. And I think just female comics in general. And in the pantheon of great comics, I think she's definitely there as well, because her stand-up stands on its own. And again, she just happens to be Asian, she happens to be female, and she happens to be tatted, and all the other different qualities you can bring up about her. But
that becomes kind of like one of the more important things, I think. Mentioning it and talking about it, but not like having an act or something that's like hinged on that. I think ends up being, like I've never known you to be like the guy who talks about being half this, half that. Like, you've had jokes about it, but you're more like, I think it goes way further to just show people like, I'm a person and here's my life and my background, and here's like the rainbow of things that make up Steve Byrne or Nick Youssef or whatever. That more than anything does a better job of just showing that you're like me, I'm like you, we're like
completely
those guys or whatever.
I think I've been consistent throughout the duration of my career in terms of being inclusive of everybody, not exclusive to a sect of the population.
Sure,
and it always has been under the banner of being proud of this country and being American. And my second hour was an American flag, and my fourth hour, it was truly just a flag and not my name, and this nice little send-off.
Will be a Russian flag.
It would be a Russian flag, exactly.
Over now.
That's where we're headed, right?
Yeah, people are like, "Whoa, what happened?"
but yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for noting that. But yeah, I think it's. I also never wanted to betray one side of my family,
right?
And my mom was always like,
"There's like a balancing."
You never talk about your dad, because it's like. Because then all of a sudden you are Carlos Mencia. It's just like, but you're Ned and you're half German. Where's the Oktoberfest jokes? And,
exactly.
When does that happen? Just, then you're doing it just to do it. But look, I get why Carlos does that. It's probably because all his life he's been told by people in a really shitty, demeaning way, he's Hispanic, he's different, you're a beaner, you don't count.
Yeah.
And so when you take that on, it's like, well, I'm going to fucking flip the narrative.
Right.
I am going to be Hispanic, but I'm going to be fucking funny. I'm going to be rich and famous. And he did it, and he flipped it. But I think when you poke at it and truly go to that person's identity, well, you are half German too.
I mean, it is a difficult, it's a difficult, road. I mean, you did a really good job, doing, representing, both sides of, who you are and, where you grew up. A part of your identity is informed by, growing up in Pittsburgh. If you grew up in Seattle, things probably would have been different, or Texas, or, so you do a good job of confidently, representing, here is all the things that make up, Steve Byrne as a person and a comedian and stuff. But I think that there is that route too, where you're told, even if you are half German or half whatever, if you look like you're more this, people go, no, we don't accept that. We're going to call you that. And it's a mind fuck.
Yeah, ultimately,
you don't know where you land.
It's up to you. It's up to Ned. It's up to Carlos. It's up to whoever it is.
Yeah. But you don't know that when you're a teenager. I didn't know that. I as I've gotten older too, I did a pretty good job assimilating and looking like I'm one of the fucking guys. Yeah. I'm very light skinned for an Arab.
Yeah.
So some people will be like, well, I've always thought of you as white, and then I've always been like, that's I guess what I wanted, but I'm a Lebanese guy. I'm a Middle Eastern. You go to my house, there's Arabic being spoken. It smells like garlic all over the place. That's my home life. Yeah. That's what it was like growing up. So when I was younger, I didn't know how to manage it, and as an adult, you find it's not about what you or all these other people think. I'm going to take control
exactly
of my identity and how much of it I am going to put out there or own or whatever. But I mean, that's part of the reason I'm doing this thing,
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great podcast. I think it's a great vessel because at the end of the day, everybody at some point in their life felt like they didn't fit in.
Exactly.
They felt like an outcast.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, a really great podcast for kids in high school or college to listen to because that's when you're really figuring it out. I remember when I first moved to New York City, Mark Maron said it takes 10 years to become an overnight success in comedy. And he was at year 18 when he probing him. And he was like, it's going to take you 10 years to develop your voice. It's going to take you 10 years to figure out who you are. And I was like, fuck that. I got to figure it out.
What's this guy talking about? Yeah.
And I realized Well, it took me, I think, 15 years to figure out my voice because it just took me a little bit longer. And I think...
And that was after you were already really good.
Doing stuff, yeah.
You were destroying everywhere. You were working a ton. You were like...
Yeah, I was. I was destroying.
No, look, I know you're being modest, but you were already like an incredibly skilled comedian. You're headlining. You're
but figuring out how to write for yourself.
Exactly. That's the other thing.
What you're passionate about. And I think that when you're growing up, once you could put a curly one on the soap, okay, that's when it starts, and you're figuring things out.
Yeah.
And once that happens, you're like, who the fuck am I? And I think this is a great introduction to that. This podcast. That's why I said, yeah, of course, because of you. But when you told me about the foundation of this, I'm like, I think this would be great for young kids and college kids to hear this because it is so formative in terms of your identity and where you choose to align yourself. And it took me just a while, but I was like, for me, it was like Byrne identity is when I said, I'm American. I'm tired of like being Korean and Irish. I'm American because America truly is a melting pot and is everybody from all over the world just accepting one another and respecting one another ultimately is what it should be.
Yeah. Instead of breaking off.
So I'm a part of that. Yeah. Instead of, I'm going to hang out with Bobby Lee and Ken Jeong the rest of my life. It's like, what?
Life. Yeah.
Why? Okay.
Guy only hangs out with, yeah. It would be crazy. It would be crazy to do that.
And I wouldn't because I'm a cat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's something you only were able to figure out being an outcast and being this and being that, where you go like, well, there's so many options. You could be a little bit of, everything, and then in the end still be like, an American guy named Steve.
Yeah, and like with you, whenever I ran into you at the Comedy Store early on, I always just saw you as Nick. I never would have assumed anything else, and Simone's not some, Italian from Philly. It's just like, that's Simone. I don't know. Maybe it was growing up in Jersey and growing up around kids from all different backgrounds, but predominantly most of them were Jewish and Italian. I just never think that, maybe if I grew up in Iowa and it was just with white people all the time and a black kid moved there in junior high school, I'd think differently, but I just never have had that in me.
Yeah.
Unless I'm on stage and then you can trash somebody's ethnicity.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You can just go straight down the line. Here's 8 stereotypes and I'm going to go in on and just boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Enjoy your night.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, what the fuck? He doesn't even know that guy. But yeah, I think that's a part of what makes like this whole experience like so fun is that, you're open-minded enough about it. Like you'll just meet a lot of cool people with a lot of different backgrounds and you just kind of like, take what's in front of you. Just like, yeah, cool, that's who you are, great, let's now be friends and move on. And and I think it's going to keep moving in that direction. Every time you turn on your TV or you watch a movie, there's someone else being portrayed in a way that goes against a stereotype we've always kind of grown up seeing, whether it is white or black or whatever the race is, from white on, down to, ethnicities that you didn't even know really existed, or, places where you're like, what's a Laotian person?
Right.
There's people that are just, I've never even heard of that, soon enough, those people will just be portrayed as, a guy or a girl playing this role or being a comedian talking about their children or fucking traffic or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And then that'll just be a thing that's kind of looked back on as, oh, remember when we used to treat, whites and gays and Latinos and whatever like this and that. And I don't know.
That's why I just saw that Wonder Woman movie, which was
I want to see that.
And there was this guy, he was, like Middle Eastern, his name is Sammy, and he was giving his backstory to Wonder Woman. She's like, why are you so good at this? And he was like this smooth operator that could get in anything, and he could speak all these languages and stuff. And he's like, well, I've always wanted to be an actor, but I look like this, so I had to do what I had to do. And it just like, it's such a great line, but it's so like, I know the movie takes place during World War I, but it was written now, and it's like another one of those things where it's just like, you just keep piling enough straws on the camel's back that is the country, in terms of, again, accepting one another and understanding we're all just trying to get through life together.
Right.
And eventually you put enough of those straws, it'll break. And guys like Sammy that were portrayed in World War I, imagine being, an Iranian actor, or imagine you're, Afghani, and you want to come here and you look like Danny DeVito, but your passion is stage and acting. It's like, who the fuck's what role is being written for that guy right now,
Yeah.
And it's just like, the guy was like, I was born like this. And you just, you hope to God that at some point we have that spectrum of people from all over, being represented. But I think it's also, you can't be dependent upon Hollywood to write that for you.
Sure, yeah.
It's gotta come from within. It's gotta be Asians. If you're not well represented in the NBA, well, you know what? Get better at basketball.
Yeah.
If you want to see more Persians playing in the NFL, well, then fucking get your kids playing. It's not up to the NFL to make this happen, and it's not up to Hollywood. I feel it's not up to Hollywood to put more people. It just shoehorn them into roles. It's like, why do we need a black James Bond? I don't want to see a black James Bond. I want to see James Bond the way it's been the last however many decades.
Unless it's Idris Elba. He would make a great James Bond.
He'd be a great...
Yeah.
But why not create a vehicle for him? Because Matt Damon can be the Bourne Identity. Tom Cruise can do Mission Impossible. You could brand those James Bond films just as easily. So why can't you make a black version of that? Why does it have to be... To me, it's just lazy. It's like, let's make Spider-Man black. It's like, why? Why can't you just make a great black superhero? Why can't you be creative enough within your own community to do something like that?
Because I guess it would show that it doesn't matter. Because a lot of people grew up thinking like certain things are white and certain things are black and certain things are this. Yeah. To make Spider-Man black would show that certain things don't have to be white. They can be anything.
Well, yeah, look, if you're going to reboot it and make him Puerto Rican like they did in the comics, or, this young girl, she's like Hispanic and she's going to be the new Iron Man. It's like, okay, you could reboot it and do it that way. Yeah, that's fun and I get it. And you're going under the marketing principle that people buy that because it's an Iron Man comic book.
Right.
But I just think, don't be lazy, work a little fucking harder and create something even better. Because this is Hollywood, full of creative people. You can
create a new superhero that is just a guy or a girl that is, has Iron Man like qualities or whatever the hell the thing, or even whatever, just a new thing that just happens to be a human that has superpowers that is out there saving the world from bad guys.
Yeah.
And then cast him as a Laotian guy, if that's even how you say it, Laotian. But yeah. And I think that, we are seeing more of that now because there's so many there's Amazon, Netflix, Showtime, HBO, all these different networks that are just like waiting for amazing content. And people are like, here's a show about, 17th century France and blah, blah, blah is happening. You're like, that would have never aired on NBC.
Yeah.
It's so specific.
But like Django Unchained, right? Mm-hmm. That could have been... that could have spawned 100 sequels.
Right.
He's now a bounty hunter.
Right.
He's out there. So, because it's Tarantino, it's going to be one-off, but why can't Hollywood create this, vindictive kind of like superhero bounty hunter that learned this skill set and now he's off on his own? That'd have been fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And if it was somebody at the helm, maybe it could have happened. So I'm just saying...
Graphic
creative.
Novels are good about that. They'll just
novels are great,
They'll just like write characters and then, it doesn't matter what race or ethnicity it is because there's no they're not marketing it towards middle America or wherever. They're just like, here's the story and this character's black and that character's this and that.
But go back to the history of comics. What was it? It was a bunch of skinny Jews trying to make money post-depression, and they're going to sit there and daydream and get creative. Wouldn't it be cool if I could fly and I wasn't this skinny, wiry guy, if I was handsome? And so what's he going to do? He's going to draw a better version of himself and become Superman. I'm going to draw a better version of myself. I'm Spider-Man. If I was in high school, what would this... And so there's a black kid out there right now that's wondering, why isn't there a black superhero? Write a better version of you and daydream and get creative.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, maybe 10 years from now, we'll have a black superhero that is the fucking shit because it's taken this long to get Wonder Woman. The first female superhero.
Yeah, that people are like...
and people are like, this is fucking amazing.
Right.
Of course it is. It should be no different. It's a great story. That's the bottom line. So
exactly.
If you're a minority or you feel an outcast in Hollywood, you could sit there and knock on every door and wait for somebody to hire you. Or again, going back to pull your
Right.
Pull your boots up.
Yeah.
Why not create
your
your own
thing.
vehicle, and instead of waiting for somebody to hire you, start your own business.
Yeah.
And start it out. And
is this your way of telling me that you're writing a Korean American superhero character?
They rebooted the Hulk. Do you know that they did that with the Hulk?
Written again? They're doing another.
They rebooted the Hulk, but he's actually half Asian.
What?
So they did that, yeah. And of course, there's She-Hulk.
So he's going to be greenish yellow.
Yeah,
I'm going to get emails now. How dare you make a joke about that? Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, because he could be fucking anything. He ends up becoming a giant green monster.
The serum,
who fucking cares what his background is?
The serum could have been given to anybody. That's something I agree with.
Yeah.
Like Superman, there's a mythos. It is, it's very specific to him. You know, Batman is very specific to him, and it's been decades, and it's such an iconic thing that it's like we don't need to make a black Batman, in my opinion, because again, it would be lazy. It's just like, why not get creative?
Yeah.
And create something.
Yeah, eventually you do have
even
to
better.
make a new, even aside from like recasting as with a different like race. It's like, I just am tired of seeing reboots of the same fucking stories. It's like, how many times are we going to redo Batman? I don't care who's playing him.
Yeah.
Enough already. Like, come up with a new guy.
Yeah.
Like, just start over with a new thing.
Yeah.
Like, are we done with progress in terms of creativity? Like, it's only Batmans and Supermans and Spider-Mans from here on out?
Yeah. Well, sometimes they can't even get those right. So until they get it right,
true. In my opinion, they got it right when Christopher Nolan
films. Yeah.
To me, it was like, after those movies, I was like, sweet, we're done with Batman. All right, let's move on. And then they go, oh yeah, we're recasting Batman again. I'm like, what? When will it end?
Yeah.
Are we going to have 45 different
Spider-Man,
Batman?
right? Sam Raimi had two great ones.
Yeah.
He fucked up the third one.
It's over.
He didn't fuck up the third one, but the
someone
studio
else.
fucked up the third. He was trying to do his best. And then they rebooted it again.
It's just
those
like,
two were okay. And now they're rebooting it again.
It's unreal to me.
Yeah.
It's like, just start that you every single year there's like a world full of kids that are waiting to crack open a new, comic book or watch a new thing. That could be the generation that goes, that's our new superhero. I can't wait to watch more of that cartoon or movie or whatever it is. And then 20 years down the line, that becomes the next whatever, Superman, Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you want to make it. But they seem to not be ready to do that. Like, it's just like they assume people are like, yeah, they're not smart enough to learn about a new superhero. We just have to keep showing them the same one. It's like, yeah, well, no, we get the superhero story. Introduce a new one and let us learn about that guy.
Well, even look at what Star Wars has done. I mean, Star Wars did, in terms of like race, you go that way, but like gender, I mean, they took the last two Star Wars films that have come out and they're female led. Your protagonist is female, so it's like as much praise we're going to give Wonder Woman. It's like Star Wars did this 2 years ago already, and then they did it a year ago. Yeah, and they knew that the guys were going to come regardless because it's a Star Wars film. Right. And I think marketing-wise, they're like, let's get everybody. Let's get some girls in here. And as a guy, you're watching, these 6 other films that were male-led, and then you're watching this one. It's just like, it doesn't matter who, as long as the story is great, and it doesn't matter who's.
Yeah, I never even really like paid that much attention to like.
I never gave a shit until afterwards. Somebody's like, "It was a girl leading." It's like, "Oh yeah,"
I was like, "Oh yeah, it was," because
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, for me, I was like, "Please make a good Star Wars story." I wasn't concerned like. I'm sure maybe some people going like, oh yeah, I can't wait for this Star Wars movie. Oh, there's a chick in here. Like, I'm sure some people do that, but it did boil down to like, the story, which I was like, yeah, that was a Star Wars movie. Cool. Yeah. And then I'm like, moved on with my life. Had they done that 4 films ago, put a woman in, that would have gone a lot further because people were still like, Star Wars.
Yeah.
That would have gone way further.
The prequels,
Yeah. But, but yeah, hopefully there's like a new superhero thing that in 10 years we can look back on and go, finally they put the reviving Batman thing to bed, and now we got this new guy or girl or transgendered whatever. Like, who gives a shit what it is? As long
I
as
don't give a shit what it is, as long as it's a fun story.
Yeah, exactly.
A great story you can lead, and a character you can root for. That's all ultimately what it matters.
I think your superhero name. What was the thing that you called yourself on the bus?
What did I call it?
To the bully, remember?
Oh, Crusher Bone Smith.
Crusher Bone Smith. That's your superhero name.
Yeah.
That's your superhero name.
Fucking.
All right, you want to end it?
Sure.
Let's do it. Hour and a half.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That was a long one.
Yeah, that's about how long they go.
Good. That was
hour
awesome,
15, hour 45.
That's great, yeah.
So we're
Should we keep talking to the mic, or is it over?
No, this is it. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
All right.
Appreciate it, bud.